This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome into another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. Patriots pull off a win, come behind victory against the Houston Texans to improve their record to 2-3 on the year. Patriots won 25-22. Nick Folk with a late field goal to put them ahead, and then a couple of defensive plays with not much time left for the Texans to seal that victory. But real quick, before we jump into the rest of the Patriots stuff, I just wanted to shout out Red Sox. What a game. Extra innings victory over the Rays to lead the series 2-1. Could win it tomorrow at Fenway. Boston Marathon's back. That'd be great performance, great day. Fenway, the atmosphere today was crazy. Just watching it on TV and everything, you could hear the fans at all the key moments and stuff. But that was an absolutely phenomenal game. Christian Vasquez walks it off with a 2-run homer in the 13th, I believe. So yeah, that was a great game. But back to football for the rest of the time. 25-22, Houston Texans. What were your initial thoughts on this game while you were watching it, Chase?
Yeah, initial thoughts were, I think it was a roller coaster of emotions for Patriots fans because you go from very well being able to beat one of the best teams in the league last week in Tampa Bay and competing with them on the defensive side is where I was very impressed with last week. And this week they go an 18-play drive right off the bat. Houston does. And you were getting no pressure on them. Mills is just throwing wherever he wants to. They get a 4th down conversion, and that really set the tone for the game, in my opinion. So right off the start, I was not too impressed with New England. Now, I think that this game is totally different than most games we've seen where, other than the fumbles on offense, which I'm sure we'll get into more, I thought the offense played very well. Mack Jones was not on his butt too much. The run game was still very it struggled at times. It got going there towards the end, but we could not get very much rushing yards in the first half of the game, and that kind of limited our offense. But how our offense came back, I thought they put together some great drives. I thought Mack Jones looked stellar there. Hunter Henry's coming along good. I think we saw some promise out of these backup offensive linemen that played. Now I don't want them to have to start multiple games in the season, especially against a better defensive line than what Houston was. But we saw some good things, and it still has a sour taste in our mouths. Although we, win, we go to 2-3. It's still, we feel like we could play better. But there were some things I was impressed with, especially, just week in, week out. Mack Jones just continues to impress me, leading this team back in the 4th quarter, down 13, coming back, leading them down the field multiple times. And honestly, we should have beat them by more without a couple fumbles. Could have had another touchdown on the board, and that's kind of been the story of the year. Got to start taking care of the football. But, there's good and there's bad in every game. Luckily that there was good and bad in this game, and we got the win, and we can improve on it. It would definitely have sucked if we lost this game with all the bad things that happened. But at this point of the season, you'll take a win however they come. Yeah,
and that was kind of my initial thoughts as well, especially during the game. We talked about it off air a minute ago, but I was just honestly speechless at one point. To where we really should have won that game against the Bucs. We were the better team that day. We outplayed them, had a chance to win it at the end, didn't make the right call, went with the field goal over the 4th down, going for it, whatever. It is what it is. But you had to feel good walking away from that game. And Pastor Gus said it on his story today. He said it perfectly. He said, if you believe in moral victories, then you have to also kind of believe in not moral defeats, but this was kind of one of those wins that felt like a loss just because who you played for competition and the way that the game went. And the defense is supposed to be an elite defense, and they couldn't stop the 30th ranked offense in the NFL to save their lives. It was awful. It was pretty terrible at one point. Texans were just driving down the field. The first drive, they took over 10 minutes off the clock in the first quarter, went down, scored a touchdown, came back again, scored again, I believe. It was just, it was really tough to watch that first half, and the offense played really, really well the first half, and it just sucks. You get down to the goal line again, and Damian Harris fumbled again right at the goal line. It was inches away from being a touchdown, and you fumble. The offense had been rolling up to that point, didn't have any struggles at all pretty much. I was really impressed with the offensive line overall performance today. I thought they held up really well given the circumstances. So that was a good sign at least. But I mean, overall, the offense played pretty well. They kind of stalled like towards the somewhere in like this third quarter. They kind of stalled, didn't have it going. Had a couple, not a couple, almost 3-and-outs basically. Had to punt a few times, and that was frustrating. A lot of really, really frustrating calls in the red zone. And again, Josh McDaniels, we're gonna hit on it again, I'm sure, a little bit later in this, but just a lot of frustrating things from this football game. A lot to clean up, but at the end of the day, 2-3, we got the victory. On to Dallas next, and you got to be happy that this team showed some fight late and ended up pulling off the victory, because this is the type of game that we've lost so far this year. These tight games. Maybe we should have won a couple of those, maybe not, but we've lost the tight games so far this year, and it was good to come out of the winning side of one of these.
Yeah, and when I look back at the game, two of their touchdowns were, one of them's a flea flicker, a trick play. Credit to them. They caught us off guard and they executed it good. The second one to Moore, where Davis Mills throws it up, goes right over J.C. Jackson. McCourty, takes a bad angle, and then he just outruns us to the end zone. It's kind of like that Saints game where Jameis Winston just throws it up, and they just happen to make a better play on it than us. So, yeah, they were, outperforming us, but a couple of their touchdowns were like cheap touchdowns. It just kind of sucks to see it that way. But they dominated us in the first half. I mean, going into halftime, I'm like, dude, this is not real. Like, there's no way we're going to lose to Houston and go to 1-4.
Felt like a sick dream.
It did. It really did. I'm like, this is, I like, someone pinched me. This can't be happening. My mom walked up. I'm like, yeah, they're horrible. Like, and then we end up winning. And so, yeah, you're happy, but then again, you're not. So it's a tough one. We'll get into it a little bit more with our good, bad, and the injured. But the thing that I, want to hit on, it kind of came back and haunted us again, is red zone scoring. We got in the red zone 5 times. We obviously fumble once. We kicked 2 field goals. So we go 2 for 5 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And I think that we saw some good things. Hunter Henry's becoming the red zone threat we signed him to be. But we need to have more of those. We need to have Jonnu Smith step up. We need to have other guys. And we need to make that 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5. That's what the elite teams are doing. So it's frustrating to continue to see us get in the end zone or to get in the red zone and then not be able to push it into the end zone, especially that fumble by Damian Harris. That one was frustrating.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm going to jump into this just right now. Josh McDaniels, we've talked about this before. The play calling, I think the main reason that we're having a lack of success in the red zone is Josh McDaniels. He has been absolutely horrible in the red zone. He called 3 straight screen passes on first, second, and third and long. And I mean, what are you doing? You're in the red zone. You have all these weapons that we signed, these 2 monster tight ends that are red zone threats who both had almost double-digit touchdowns last year. I mean, what are you signing these people for, and these wide receivers? And what do you have this first-round rookie quarterback if you're not going to use them? You're just going to screen passes to Brandon Bolden on 3rd and long, 2nd and long. I mean, 2 right in a row, back to back, 3 in a row at one point. It's like, I just, the play calling baffles me. I don't understand it. I don't know what his problem is, but it's pretty funny that as soon as he opens up the play calling a little bit, 3rd and long, lets Mack throw the ball up to Hunter Henry. Perfect throw just over the DB. Hunter Henry makes a nice catch in the end zone, and we score a touchdown. It's crazy how that works. You call a play that has a chance to score, and they execute it, and we score a touchdown. Or you can call a screen pass over and over again and just run our chances of winning into the ground, because it's getting extremely frustrating seeing him call the same crap plays over and over again, multiple times in a row in scenarios. So, like, here's one scenario where he called the screen pass on 3rd and long, but I understood the play call because I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a screen pass. We got like 3-4 yards out of it. It makes Nick Folk's field goal go from 56 yards to 52, and now he can kick it, and he ended up making it. So, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I understand that. But when you're at the 15-yard line, at the 20-yard line, 5 yards doesn't mean anything at all. You're either getting the first down and continuing your drive to try to get a touchdown, or you don't get the first down and you kick a field goal and it's 3 points. So getting 5 yards, getting 7 yards, getting 2 yards doesn't matter. So you either get the first down or you don't, and you kick a field goal. So in that situation, running 3 screens, running 2 screens back to back on 2nd and 3rd and long, and getting just 1-2 yards or even no yards at all just doesn't make sense to me. The play calling is just kind of been baffling in the red zone, and I think he's holding us up in the red zone. I think that's where the struggles are coming from, because we've seen that these weapons, when they're allowed, when Mack is allowed to drop back and throw the ball to one of these guys, it's been successful so far. So I don't know. I don't know what's holding them up from opening up the playbook a little bit in the red zone for these guys. And I don't know why we continue to do a screen pass every single play in the red zone. But I mean, teams obviously know what's coming, and it doesn't work. So I had to get that off my chest a little bit. I'm a little bit frustrated, but he's been building my frustration over the past, few years at least, but just even this season so far, when he continues to call these same plays and we have the same lack of success, and it doesn't situationally, it makes sense at certain points, but when he does it consistently and it makes absolutely no sense, I don't know what else to say, and it just stalls drives.
Yeah, it's frustrating to continue to see those screen passes get called in the red zone. If they're working, that's one thing, but they're not working. Like, I get it. It's a change up. It's get some guys touch, maybe let your playmakers make some plays happen in open space. But Brandon Bolden's no James White. He's not going to make guys miss like James White does. It's just frustrating to see the play calling right there, especially when we have Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, guys like that can run routes downfield and get us in the end zone. So I agree. The other thing that I wanted to say defensively was fourth downs. They go 3 for 3 on fourth downs, and I get it. They're fourth and shorts. 2 of them, I thought, where one, David Johnson is just running a quick slant on Devin McCourty. And then the next one is Brandon Cooks running it on JC Jackson. And it's just simple little plays, but we're not being aggressive. I thought we stopped the run very well today. They rushed for 67 total yards, 2.8 a carry. Like, we were shutting down the rush today. But if you were to tell me going into the game that Davis Mills threw for over 300 yards and they rushed for under 100, I'd be like, yeah, right. No way. Like, that's not true. That's not going to happen. I thought that Bill was going to, shut him down, but I think it's credit to Davis Mills. He kind of came out and he played pretty decent. So it just sucks to see us continue to struggle there. And now we know we don't have a reinforcement coming with Stephon Gilmore. Like, this is who we have right here to roll with, is the corners that played today.
Yeah. And Tanner, yes, I do not like screen passes. When you have James White, that's one thing. He's a great third down receiving back. He can make plays happen in the backfield. We saw early this year, screen passes worked a lot for James White. He follows his blockers, stands right behind him, shoots the gap wherever he needs to go. And he got 20, 30 yards on a couple occasions. But when you have Brandon Bolden back there, who really shouldn't be used in any capacity as a running back, he's more of a special teams player only, and you're using him multiple plays in a row on screen passes, that's not getting the ball into a weapon's hands. That's Brandon Bolden. You want to get the ball into a weapon's hands, throw it to Hunter Henry, throw it to Jonnu Smith, throw it to one of these actual weapons that we signed that we're paying $13 to $15 million a year for to be these red zone targets. So the way we've utilized our weapons, I think we've done it extremely poorly so far. I know it's early on. We're only 5 weeks into the season, but eventually we're going to be 10 weeks. We're going to be 15 weeks, and this stuff can't continue. We got to be more creative with the play calling and open things up for these guys that we signed, because we got some really talented players and they just aren't being used correctly. And it's frustrating to see. When we continue to get 3 points instead of 7, and we feel like if the correct plays were called, we could have got 7 instead of the 3. That's frustrating. That's football games right there. We won this game by 3 points. If we called the game a little differently, we could have won this game by maybe 2 touchdowns. And it's a completely different ball game. If we score in those red zone opportunities that we're getting and we stop fumbling the football, we call plays correctly and stop doing these screen passes over and over again that don't work. I think this offense is going to look a lot different, because we're not having trouble getting down the field. At least we haven't the past few games. Getting down the field is not the problem. It's once we get in the red zone, we're calling very, very conservative play calls and just being okay with getting 3 points. And I don't think that's a recipe for winning football in 2021. You see teams putting up 40 points a game. You're not going to put up 40 points a game by kicking field goals unless you have 27 field goals. And it's frustrating to see that. But touching on what you just said about the secondary, I think the gap between Jalen Mills and Juwan Williams is a lot bigger than I expected it to be. I didn't think Jalen Mills would be great this year. We both kind of talked about it a little bit ahead of the season, but he's been solid so far. He's held his ground. He's held his own. And Juwan Williams was just not good today. He had both the big plays that they had for touchdowns came on. Well, one of them was that JC Jackson, Devin McCourty one, but they had another 30-yard gain, and then it had a touchdown on Juwan Williams as well. So he didn't play his best today. I think if Jalen Mills is healthy, they probably don't score 1, maybe even 2 of those big plays that they had, but it's frustrating to see when this defense is a strength of ours that we think is going to keep us in ball games, and they were what was keeping us out of the ball game.
Yeah, and it's the exact opposite of what I feel like it's been all year, is where we've kind of relied on the secondary to get us out of drives, and the rushing game, the defensive, stopping the run has struggled. But today, I felt like the defensive line was very good, and then the struggles come in the secondary, and you don't see that often in New England. Devin McCourty's a seasoned veteran. J.C. Jackson, you think he's been in the system long enough, and he has the reputation to be that guy. And like you mentioned, Jalen Mills has stepped up, but it was just kind of flipped today. I mean, passing the ball for them, it kind of shocked me. They averaged 9.2 yards of passing play. Davis Mills goes 21 of 29. It was I just continually on third down, I'm like, okay, we're gonna get out of this one. Like, no way he can complete this 3rd and 19, and then they get down to 4th and 1, and then they go for it, and then they get it on 4th and 1 and they extend the drive. So we're getting them in 3rd and longs, but then we weren't capitalizing on it with our secondary like we usually do. There was one too where Adrian Phillips, I don't know how Brandon Cooks caught it. I thought Adrian Phillips picked it off.
Oh,
but
I did too. Yeah.
He reads it perfectly and undercuts it, and somehow he catches it, and we get out of the drive. But still, it's just kind of, that's how the game was. Like, we were in position to make plays between the second touchdown to Moore, where that's kind of a bad throw, in my opinion, where he throws it up and there's 2 Patriots around him, but they go up and they make a play and they take it to the house, and then a couple other ones. So our defense was not capitalizing on the opportunities that Houston gave us, and that's kind of, frankly, what got us down in a hole and could have costed us this game. Is when you're playing a team like this that's 1-4, that's starting a rookie quarterback and missing multiple guys, you got to pounce on them early and then get their hopes up. When you give them hope in a game, they're up by 13 points all of a sudden going into the 4th quarter, they're like, okay, we can win this. Like, this is doable. But if New England comes out and smothers them right away, that none of this happens. So a slow start for me too was another thing. I was just like, how do we do this? Like, I don't know if we're on a high because we thought we played good and people were praising us because we played good against Tampa Bay, and then we come out to a half-empty stadium in Houston and we can't start fast. So it was frustrating. The first half was.
And that's one thing too, is like, I mean, maybe the heat coming from Boston and stuff like that, but you're playing in basically perfect conditions. You're inside a dome. So you can't blame the weather, can't blame wind or anything like that. Bad field conditions. I mean, you're inside a dome. So, I mean, it was ideal conditions and just slow start. I mean, not a lot of fans early on, but it seemed like the noise picked up a little bit later in the game. Nothing like a packed Gillette Stadium or anything like that, obviously. But yeah, it was just kind of frustrating. Feel like lack of playmaking basically on the defense side of the ball for the most part. Like you said, you compared it to that Saints catch in the back of the end zone. That's exactly what it was. It was a poor decision by Davis Mills, and the playmaker made a play and bailed him out. J.C. Jackson just barely missed it. He didn't time his jump perfectly, but that's also something that Devin McCourty, I didn't think he had a great game. Devin McCourty, as a guy on this team who's been a veteran for 12 years with this team, he's been a pillar of this Patriots football for forever. So when J.C. Jackson plays the ball and Devin McCourty plays the ball, if neither of you get the ball, nobody's playing the receiver. So that's what happened. Devin McCourty kind of flew by, and the receiver was standing behind J.C. Jackson and just, outran the two of them. So stuff like that. One guy, if J.C. Jackson's going for the ball, Devin McCourty, okay, I'm not going to go for the ball. I'm going to play the receiver. If he catches it, boom, hits him out of bounds. It's a big play, but hey, it's not a touchdown. You know what I mean? You can hold them to 3. So just stuff like that, multiple big plays, and just the defense not capitalizing on different opportunities. Like you kind of mentioned, their third down efficiency wasn't great, 6 for 14, but they were 3 for 3 on 4th down. They just kept going for it on 4th down, and they kept getting it. It was frustrating. I think for the defense, when you feel like, hey, usually in a game, if you stop them to 4th and 2, 4th and 3, you're like, okay, yes, we get off the field, good. But they kept going for it and they kept getting it. So it's frustrating as a defense, I think, when you got to play all 4 downs and really hold them to 3rd and long, or they might go for it if it's 4th and short. So just different stuff like that. Not playing great on 3rd down, like you mentioned, that screen pass where they got right in front of the sticks and then went for it on 4th down and got it. Just stuff like that. Not a lot of great plays in this game. And when you looked for the team to kind of change momentum and turn things around, they really didn't. It was the Texans shooting themselves in the foot and making that bad play on the punt where the guy kicked it off his teammate's helmet. And then after that, the momentum started to shift and started to swing our way, and we started picking things up, playing better, all that stuff. So I didn't love our ability to create our own energy. I didn't think we did a good job of that, like you mentioned. And I do think once the tide started to turn, and I think we took advantage of our opportunities and turned the game around. But it was just one of those games, just frustrating. Felt like we didn't play nearly up to our capabilities.
Yeah. And now we have a tough game at home against Dallas coming up. And, we're 0-3 at home, 2-0 on the road. You don't want to drop a fourth one at home. Dallas has a very high-powered offense. You got to get this secondary figured out because they have a lot of guys that can hurt you in the secondary. But let's jump into our good, bad, and our injury that we do every week. We'll start off with the good. I'll start off here. One of my good players, obviously, I don't think we talk about him. Well, we do talk about him a lot, but he never really gets highlighted on this good list is Mack Jones, right? He's just been good, consistent all year. And I feel like we don't really need to talk about him because he's never had a bad game. He's just always been steady, right, up to this point in the season. But some of the throws he made, the poise that he has coming back, leading this team down 13, I think he's been a great leader. He only got sacked once, like I mentioned, so he wasn't getting put on his back nearly enough or nearly a lot of times. But I just continue to be impressed with him, completing 76% of his passes again today, just being accurate, on time, throwing the ball where it needs to be, making the correct reads. The one thing that I was down on Mack Jones today was I felt like there were 2 or 3 plays that are uncharacteristic of him that could have been interceptions. There were 2 throws that I can remember off of the top of my head where I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you looking at? And that's uncharacteristic up to this point. But I have to give Mack Jones credit. Without him, I don't know where this team would be. I don't know if they come back from this because our running game so far has been what has been struggling, and our passing game has really exceeded with Mack Jones back there completing 70% of the passes and being able to deliver it to the right guys. So Mack Jones, the first one on my good list, someone that I always feel has played good. I just haven't highlighted him enough on this list. Just thought I'd get him on there.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't put him on my good list just because I didn't feel like it was one of his best games so far. I thought, and that's what's funny to say is a rookie goes 23 of 30 with 230 yards, a touchdown, and 1 pick, but it leads a fourth quarter comeback victory. And we think of that as a poor game, or not a poor game, but not up to Mack Jones standard because of those uncharacteristic mistakes that you talked about. I agree. He put the ball in harm's way a few times, which I was shocked because that's something we haven't really seen Mack do at all. But he also overall played a really solid game all together. He was 9 for 9 to start the game until he finally threw an incompletion. He's not throwing the ball deep down the field. It's nothing crazy, but he's being efficient. He's been a great efficient passer, moving the chains, moving the sticks, getting the ball down the field, just moving drives along. And he's been definitely the bright side of this offense so far has been his ability to move the football, throw the football with accuracy, and protect it for the most part. He had 1 pick today. Is what it is. He's a rookie. He's bound to make a couple mistakes, but yeah, I was a little surprised a couple of those throws, but overall, good day with the offensive line, especially being makeshift. 4 out of 5 starters missing. I thought it was a good day overall for him. Just a couple throws here and there, if you're nitpicking, that I'm sure he'd like to have back looking at it on film. And I think the interception, he said he just didn't step into the throw enough. He kind of sat back there, and I can't remember if he was getting pressured or not. But yeah, overall he had a good day, and it's good to see a rookie quarterback playing how he's playing and being a bright side of this offense, because it seems like we have a really, really bright future with this kid.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned it. It's not a top game like that he's had this year. He's played better before, but what highlighted for me is the poise that he has coming back down 13. You have to give him a good for that. We're down. We scored 10 points in the fourth. We're down 22-15 right there. And even before that, last touchdown also, or the 2 field goals by Nick Folk, like we're sitting in trouble. And Mack Jones just continues to find ways, drive us down the field. We had 21 total first downs. 12 of them were off of passes. Like you mentioned, like he's moving the sticks. He's doing what's right. And without that fumble, we win by another touchdown. And, we cover the spread, which isn't a big deal, but you cover this 8-point spread that was put there, and it looks a lot better. But I just don't feel like he's the reason that we're losing games. He might not also be like a huge reason we're winning games because he's not throwing for a ton of touchdowns in the red zone, but we already highlighted those red zone issues with the play calling and stuff. So he's just being consistent. you can look at it. You can either have Mack Jones right now, or you can have Trevor Lawrence and the struggles that he's going through, and some of the other quarterbacks with throwing multiple interceptions a game. Mack Jones is limiting them, and I think this is the first game where we really saw him have multiple times where he could have turned it over. But consistently, he's just been a staple of this offense, being a great leader, and a lot of people have high praise for him off the field also, just being a workaholic, always being in the playbook, ready to win, ready to lead these guys, and I think he has great control of the huddle. So just impressed with his poise coming back down 13 to win this game for us.
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see it. The guys in the locker room love him. I mean, David Andrews has had nothing but good things to say. Obviously, he's not going to say anything bad, but he said that number 10, he's a tough kid. He's an extremely tough kid. You saw the pictures of the blood all over his shirt today. I don't know if that was his or somebody else's. I don't know what was going on, but his shirt was covered in blood, and just the poise he's had in the pocket, the hits he's taken. Didn't take a lot of hits today, which was good to see for the first time in basically the entire year. But just his poise, the moment never seems too big for him. I love his attitude. We've talked about it before, obviously, but I love his attitude. I love the poise he has. The moment's never too big. It wasn't too big last week against the Bucs. He performed better than Brady did. Went toe to toe with the GOAT. He brought this team back and won the football game. That's ultimately what matters and what you want to see out of your rookie quarterback. So I've been extremely impressed with him so far this year. I can't wait to see how this kid develops. I think we definitely have a bright future with him. But yeah, I'm just excited to see how he continues to grow. And once we get our full offensive line back and Trent Brown and all this stuff, and once these weapons really mesh together, I think it's going to be exciting to watch late in the year. But I will. You got anything to add to that?
No, I don't. Player? Nope. Yep. Go ahead.
I'll go with my first good. I had Hunter Henry, 6 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, you touched on it briefly at the beginning of the episode. This is what we were waiting for. See a game like this from Hunter Henry. We've seen him kind of be a guy that Mack's looked to on third down, and he's been solid hands for Mack. And whenever he looks to him, he's usually there and he's usually open and making the tough catches. So he made a few tough catches today, ran a great route on that touchdown that Mack Jones placed perfectly just over the defender's hands and right into Hunter Henry in the corner of the end zone. So I thought he had a great game. It was good to see one of our weapons. I mean, last week he had a solid week as well. So did Jonu with that one touchdown. But it's good to see these guys starting to get involved in the red zone. And I hope that we continue to do less screen passes and more targeting these big guys in the end zone, because I think that's going to be a recipe for success this year.
Yeah, multiple times, Hunter Henry running down the seam, Mack Jones hitting him over a linebacker. The touchdown was obviously a great throw. A couple other ones where Mack Jones steps up on third down and throws a bullet to Hunter Henry for a first down. Just consistent, using his big body to get in position, kind of box defenders out and catch the ball. So, yeah, it's great to see Hunter Henry there. I'd still like to see Jonnu Smith be a little bit more involved, only 2 catches for 27 yards today. And he's a little bit different than what we're going to use Hunter Henry for. Like, we saw a fly sweep to Jonnu Smith. We saw a couple different unique ways to use him, but I want to see him continue to get more touches in open space where he could use his athleticism and create those big plays with his legs. So yeah, Hunter Henry's definitely on my good list. So he's, if we're giving a player of the game out other than Mack Jones, it's definitely Hunter Henry, because he's been our best receiver today and maybe even last week too.
Yeah, I was impressed with him again. It's great to see us finally starting to get these guys involved, and I'm excited to see how these weapons really mesh together. I think we've had some positive strides the past couple weeks, which has been good to see. I think Kendrick Bourne has been one of our most steady, consistent receivers for the past probably 3 weeks. He's been doing solid. He made that play in the Saints game, and he's just been consistently good. You see that they kind of wanted to get the ball into his hands a couple times this game and created opportunities for him. So he was doing good. Jacoby's been really consistent. He had that one drop today that killed me. Yep. Wide open sitting there. If he catches that and makes one move on the defender, he's gone. If you take that play right there, Jacoby makes that 99 times out of 100. Just ended up dropping it. And then if you take that fumble from Damian Harris, another uncharacteristic mistake from him. That's 2 this year, but they've absolutely killed us. And the game really would be changed if those couple mistakes don't go the Texans' ways.
Yeah. The one guy for me on my good list also on the defensive side of the ball, not showing it too much in the stat sheet. Christian Barmore, only 2 tackles, 2 of them solo, but just his disruptiveness on the defensive line. I saw him one time blow the center off, and he had a great jump on the snap count, but he blows the center back, and they end up throwing it and then completing it. But he also had another one, I think it was on third down or second, and they actually complete the pass, but he draws a holding call because he beats the center so bad they grab him. He almost has the sack on Mills. He just kind of gets grabbed to the ground and tackled, and so they throw the flag. But I think his disruptiveness in the pass game was great today also. We didn't have too many sacks, only 3, 2 of them from Judon, 1 of them from Jamie Collins, which was another great thing to see, right? You don't see too much of Jamie Collins today. He comes in and makes a play, and I see number 58 stand up, and I'm like, oh, Anfrey Jennings, right? He's back. And then I'm like, wait, that's Jamie Collins. Let's go. So that was kind of a crazy thing off topic, but it's good to see him there. But just Christian Barmore, using his size and athleticism to be disruptive, pushing the middle of the pocket, making the quarterback scramble. That's going to come in handy. I didn't find him too bad in the run game. Also, like I mentioned, they only had 2.8 yards per carry. He contributed to that. Godchow, Davis, Dietrich Wise, Lawrence Guy. It was just a good all-around day by the defensive line. But I'm going to give my standout one to Christian Barmore for what he does in the pass game.
Yeah, I thought he was really good as well. We saw him draw that holding call as well. He's been great so far. I think this draft class is looking really, really solid so far, and we haven't even seen a couple of them take the field. McGrone was a 5th round pick for us. I think he'll have some potential with this defense, but those first rounds 1 and 2 look like home runs so far. I mean, Barmore's been a menace. I can't believe he fell to the 2nd round. I'm so happy that we traded up and got him. I think he's going to be a pillar of this defense for years to come. But him and Mack Jones, both great rookies so far, have been really impressive, and the potential is through the roof for these guys. So I can't wait to see him continue to develop and dominate, because he makes plays. And if he continues to develop in that run game as a run stopper, I mean, he's going to be a 3-down player for a long time in this system for us. So it was great to see him have another solid game. Even if he's not showing up in the stat sheet, defensive tackles usually don't. But he's making plays. He's getting involved. He's pressuring guys. He had a couple pressures on Brady last week, a couple good plays this week, couple pressures. So it's good to see. It's good to see him continue to improve and develop week to week, and his role get larger and larger, especially when we had a couple guys in that defensive tackle area that were banged up a little bit. Godchow and Davis, I believe, was banged up a little bit with a knee injury. He was kind of on and off the field. So yeah, good to see him continue to develop and play well week to week. Excited to see what the future holds for this kid. But another guy I had was Matt Judon, obviously.
Yep.
He's just, I mean, week to week, he's been great on defense. He's been a steady player for us, not only in the pass game, but in the run game. Another 2 sacks today, broke the Patriots all-time record for their first 5 games. It was previously 5.5 sacks. I think he's at 6.5 so far this year, first 5 games. So he's been great for us. He already surpassed our sack leader from last season. Chase Winovich had 5.5 sacks last year. He already has more than that in 5 games. So he's going to continue to be a dominant force on that edge, stopping the run, getting to the passer when he needs to, third downs, covering backs, whatever he needs to do, he can do it all. And I can't wait to see this guy continue to get more and more involved in this defense. And as he gets comfortable with Van Noy, now Jamie Collins, as these guys just continue to mesh together, all these new pieces, it's going to be exciting to watch. It was great to see Jamie Collins. Did you see him much today? Because other than that play, I didn't really see him on the field at all.
I didn't. And, I don't know how much they planned on having him play. I don't know if this was a certain package that they threw him in, but if that was one of his few plays that he got in, he made an impact. And I'm excited to see him get back on the field. But no, I didn't see him play, too many snaps today.
Yeah, but I thought, I mean, obviously that one play was nice, that sack that he had, big play, but just he's going to continue to get comfortable in this system. He already knows that he's going to be in here pretty quickly, and seeing these guys mesh together, it's going to be fun to watch. I hope this group can get it together sooner rather than later, because they obviously struggled today against the Texans, which is not great to see. But the bright side is that we got the pieces. We know we got the guys in the locker room, and they just got to put it together, and they're going to figure it out eventually. It's frustrating, and it's tough to be patient when you say, hey, we spent all this money and we got all these guys in the locker room that we know on paper this roster is great, and it's not being put together as one composition on the field. So it's a little bit frustrating, but the pieces are in the locker room, so that's a good part of it at least.
Yeah, Matt Judon currently top 10 in the league in sacks. He had 4.5 going into this game, gets 2, so he's at 6.5, which would be the lead. But I know Myles Garrett got 1, so he'll be at 7. But he's up there. I mean, he's getting pressures, he's getting sacks. It's exactly what we used a lot of our money for to bring him in and do great things on that defensive line. My last good, Nick Folk. I mean, he had more points than our whole offense did. He accounted for 13 points. 4 for 4 field goals, 2 from 52. Great to see, he's kicking in perfect conditions, but still you come back missing a 56-yarder to win the game last week. You put 2 52-yarders right down the middle and then 2 other ones. Yes, he missed an extra point, but those 4 field goals that he had today, obviously one of them is the deciding one that wins the game. But I thought that the 52-yarder before half, kind of gave us momentum. Wish we could have capitalized coming out of half instead of throwing an interception like we did, but at least we get points on the board there. So my last good is Nick Folk, continuing to just be great. And without that doink and, really crappy, hard conditions to kick in last week, he'd still be perfect on the season and what his streak would be plus 40 right now. So he's been great for us all year.
Yeah, he's been consistent. He was on my list as well. He was my last guy. I don't have anybody else on the list, but I do want to just add a couple names real quick who I thought were solid. Miles Bryant, we didn't hear his name called a lot, and he was out there on the field a lot more than he usually is because of Jalen Mills being out and some pieces in the defense in general. So I thought he made a couple nice plays, couple nice tackles. So not hearing his name called a lot was good. And then Juwan Bentley was pretty solid again. When he's been in, he's been great for us this year so far. Stopping the run and shooting gaps. He's been great all year for us as well. So it's good to see that improvement from last year to this year. But yeah, I just wanted to shout those guys out real quick before we move on to the bad list. But yeah, it was good to see a couple of those guys making plays and not hearing their names called too much for any bad reason. So you got anything else before we swap on to the bad?
No, I don't.
So I'll start off with Johan Williams. We kind of touched on it at the beginning. Just a couple big plays he allowed. He had his opportunity against the Texans team. Really didn't have many weapons, if any at all. They had Brandon Cooks. That's pretty much it on the wide receiver end. And he had his opportunity and he kind of blew it. He let up a couple big plays. I know it's tough, a flea flicker. You don't expect that to happen, but stuff. That's the NFL. They do trick plays. They do different things to try to get an advantage over you, and you got to be aware and be ready for it. So I hopefully he'll learn from it and bounce back. But it's concerning, especially with trading Gilmore. If anybody gets hurt in the secondary, it's going to be ugly, and I'm not looking forward to that. So hopefully we can stay healthy for most of the year and keep these pieces together, because the depth at that corner position, which we've talked about, are concerns at length previous to the season starting. They're real. So just got to hope Jalen Mills and all these guys stay healthy and continue to play solid, because behind those top 3, it's scary.
Yeah, and my other bad one out of the secondary, you kind of hit on Devin McCourty. I kind of want to go in a different direction, just to the standard we expect J.C. Jackson to play. I thought J.C. Jackson had a little bit of a down day today. Two bad penalties right there at the first half, that could have gotten us off the field. One in the end zone that draws a flag. And then obviously on that 4th and 1 where I get it. You don't want to play inside leverage on Brandon Cooks and give him the deep ball, but I think you got to be a little bit more aggressive. You can't be playing 7 yards off. If you want to play, off, play at 5, play somewhere else, at least play press man, in my opinion. It was just a little concerning. Him not being aggressive has been something that we've seen. And it's not just him, it's a lot of the corners. A lot of the corners we've given up 3rd and short, 4th and short, little slant routes, just easy. We're not contesting him at the line of scrimmage. I feel like J.C. Jackson's good enough to do that for this defense. He's proven himself. So he was on my bad list, and, still he had a great game. He had 8 tackles, which, yeah, it's kind of bad to see that as a corner. But you don't really remember too many huge catches on him, which is a good thing. Obviously, the one that they score the touchdown on, which I don't know how you put that in the stat sheet. Like, it's just a great play by that guy. And yeah, it's going to go against him, but you would hope he makes that play. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the Texans and say, you made a better play than we did, although it sucks to say. But he was on my bad list, just where we expect him to be, and quite frankly, where he has to be since Gilmore's gone.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. On that specific play you were talking about, it looked like he almost thought he had inside help from, I don't know if D-Mac was there, but he played that so soft. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because he was concerned he was going to do a double move and they were going to try to hit him deep. But on 4th and short, you got to know the situation. If you do or don't have inside help, your leverage there. I mean, you gotta play tighter coverage than that on 4th and short. I mean, it's once in a while they may hit you deep with a deep shot on 4th down and try it out, but usually they're trying to convert. It's kind of risky going forward on 4th down in general. So adding to that risk by throwing a deep shot on J.C. Jackson probably is not in their best interest most of the time. So you got to expect those quick slants, different stuff like that. He's got beat on it all year, which is kind of concerning. But overall, I didn't think he had a great day, especially that first half, like we just mentioned. He was really not helping us out. Penalties, big 3rd downs, 4th downs, stuff like that, letting him move the chains. He wasn't the J.C. Jackson that we're used to seeing. And first game with Stephon Gilmore being traded, he didn't step up to the moment, and he didn't show that he can be a number 1 corner for us. So hopefully, I mean, it's one game. He's been solid for us the entire year. So hopefully he can bounce back next week, and he'll have a great opportunity to do so with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper coming into town. So he'll have an opportunity to bounce back. We'll see if he can do it. But the next bad I had was ball security. Again, I mean, an interception from Mack and a fumble by Damian Harris. We got to win the turnover battle. We're losing it almost every game. You can't do it. You can't win football games when you lose the turnover battle. It's extremely hard. When you win the turnover battle, you win like 90-something% of the games. So that's, I mean, it's huge. It's a huge stat. The defense needs to also do a better job creating turnovers, and the offense needs to stop handing the ball to the other team, especially in the red zone, 1 inch away from scoring a touchdown. It can't happen. Damian Harris has to have better ball security. He's got to be better. It's uncharacteristic. It's been something he hasn't struggled with at all his career so far, and a couple big moments this year. He's had those fumbles, and it's cost us big time. So it's a difference between 7 points and maybe 7 points on their end. It's a huge momentum swing. So we got to be better in that department. Ball security, turnovers, all that stuff. Got to be better on the offensive and defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, this could have been easily our 3rd loss where because of fumbles, it costed us. Obviously that goal line fumble happened early in the game and you hope you overcome it. But that thing is very hard to overcome when you're going in to score a touchdown to tie the game and now you give it up and it counts as a touchback. So yeah, fumbles has been an issue, and Mack Jones has his share of interceptions. He has 5 through 5 games, but his interceptions aren't, costing us. The Jonnu Smith one, yes, killed us, but that one, just terrible luck right there. Bounces up right to the guy on the Saints, and he runs it back. The fumbles are what have killed us, and even dating back to last year, we've said this before in the Bills game. Like that could be another win where if we hold on to the ball, there's a high chance that we go in and we score and we win that game against Buffalo in Buffalo. So it sucks that fumbles are being the thing, because Damian Harris is not known to fumble the ball, and all of a sudden he has. And I hope it doesn't continue. We'll get into him when he's injured, because he did go out with a chest injury, I believe, and maybe one other thing when he went off the second time. Hopefully he's okay. But yeah, the ball security has been an issue. It's got to improve, and that's the quickest way to lose your job. We started to see Ramondre Stevenson come in. He had 11 carries. Yeah, JJ Taylor last week. Brandon Bolden's still not getting a ton of carries, but they're throwing the ball to him. Like, all these guys have to start holding on to the ball, and you can't be putting the ball on the ground. We all know Bill, he's trigger happy to pull out a guy if that happens, and we'll be seeing someone real quick. That's why I still think we need running back depth, especially if we do have Damian Harris having to sit out for this week or, extended time. Do you really want to trust just Ramondre Stevenson, JJ Taylor, and Brandon Bolden? It's going to be very scary.
Yeah. And I mean, like you just touched on, it's pretty funny. Ramondre Stevenson hasn't been on the football field since that game he fumbled, and JJ Taylor fumbles last game. He's inactive. Ramondre Stevenson gets his chance again. So I thought he did okay today. He had a couple runs where he just ran right into the heart of the defense when I thought he could have bounced it outside or done something a little different. But with the offensive line we had, the makeshift O-line, you can't give him too much crap. So I thought he made a couple nice plays, and he had a couple plays where he could have been better. But overall, these guys just need to perform better. Damian Harris, especially. If Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, and JJ Taylor are all struggling with fumble issues, us Patriots fans are going to go crazy watching Brandon Bolden get the ball over and over again. You can't do that to us. You got to just, if you don't stop fumbling for the football team in general, do it with the fans so we don't have to watch Brandon Bolden get screen passes every single play and get -2 yards per play. So just do that for the sake of Pats fans in general, because I don't think I can deal with that for 17 full games. It's gonna be tough to watch. But overall, just it's tough to win football games when you keep turning it over and losing the turnover battle. So that's definitely a key that they need to work on and step it up.
Yeah, my last bad that I have before we get on to the injured, or if you have one more, is the first 4 drives of the game for us defensively. Obviously, you hit on it on your Instagram story. 30th ranked offense in the league, and they go 18 plays for a touchdown, 3 plays 75 yards for a touchdown, 15 plays 65 yards, get a field goal, and then coming out of half, obviously off the interception, they go 2 plays 44 yards, which it's hard to blame the defense giving up a touchdown on short field. But those first 4 drives, that's what kept them in the game, right? They started getting confidence, like, hey, like, we're competing with this good defense. New England did nothing to, shut them down and say, hey, we can't do this, we can't do that. Like, they had all the confidence in the world right from that 18-play drive. I thought that there needs to be more intensity coming out, especially against a team like Houston, where you jump on them and they're down in the dumps already. They're already having a bad season. People know, they talk about them like they're going to have a top 3 overall pick. They're not going to win many games, and you just give them hope right from the first drive. So the intensity coming to the field and, just giving them hope was something down for me. And we already talked about it, but you can't do that against a good team. You do that against Dallas next week, it might be game over before halftime.
Oh yeah. You're going to be toast. You can't continuously play from behind, especially if that's not the brand of football you want to play. If you want to be a team who runs it down other teams' throats and then hits with the play action like Mack Jones did today quite often, you got to be able to run the football, and you can't have no time left to do it. You got to be in the game, within range, or ahead. That's how you want to play when you're a type of football team like the Patriots are. So can't keep getting behind, can't keep letting these teams hang around and making mental errors, physical errors, and turning the ball over. It's bad football, and it's not what we're used to for the Patriots. One good thing I will say is penalties overall for us, besides a couple defensive ones, were pretty solid. This offensive line, I figured, would probably give up quite a bit of holding penalties and different things like that, because I figured they'd be struggling. But overall, pretty solid. One guy I almost put on my good list was tackle Judon. I thought he played pretty well at left tackle, and he might have played himself a starting spot while Trent Brown's out at right tackle. So, I mean, if this offensive line gets back healthy again, I'm sure having this game on film will be good for the coaching staff to say, okay, hey, let's look at what these different guys did and the success they had. And okay, we can plug him in here with Trent Brown out. If somebody else goes out, they're going to know the best alignment for these offensive linemen. So it was good to be able to get the win and also have these depth pieces be able to show what they can do and say, okay, you know what? Our right tackles, Haran and Durant, have really struggled so far with Trent Brown out. Maybe we try Kajust. Maybe we try mixing things up, whoever. So it was good to see those different options and them. That was one good that I thought was out of this game was the penalties. We struggled with that early on in the season so far, and that was a little bit better today. So Texans, they were the team that struggled with penalties. They had a lot more penalties than we had. It seemed like they had 8 penalties for 70 yards. We had 5 for 27 yards. So that's not bad. So that was one good I had. And then the last bad, it's not necessarily a bad in general. It's just I had the defense as a whole. Overall, you can't let 22 points up to the Texans. You held the Bucks to 17 last week or whatever it was, 19 last week. And the Texans outscored that in like 3 quarters. So just overall, not a great defensive performance. We had a couple guys stand out, like we talked about, Barmore, Judon, and those guys. But overall, just it's not what you expect from this defense. I think we both expected the Texans to be quite lower scoring than this, especially if the defense is healthy. And if the offense was healthy, I think we probably would have both predicted the Texans to have under 13 points, 16 points, something like that. I don't think either of us expected it to be in the 20s with the defense being healthy, but there was a couple missing pieces on both sides of the ball. So I guess that allowed them to get a little higher score, but overall defense it's got to be better.
Yeah, it's got to be the staple of this defense with, the offensive line issues we had today. That's what we hit on most of the time too, is this defense is going to, we're going to get turnovers, get short field, and we're going to be able to capitalize on that. And that didn't happen. And we're lucky because, like you mentioned, we lose the turnover battle by 2 and we still win this game, that's you're playing with fire right there. It's not going to happen much. It's not going to happen against good teams. It's not going to happen against decent teams. I'm not saying that Houston isn't, a decent, capable team, but this is probably one of the few teams in the NFL that you can get away with doing that. And still, it was, crazy, tenseful all the way down to the end. So,
yeah, no, I agree. It just overall, it's been what we've kind of been frustrated about pretty much every game is that this team is just not playing to their potential. If this football team plays one complete, full, good game, no turnovers, wins the turnover battle, not a lot of penalties, plays to their potential on the defensive and offensive side of the ball, I don't think there's one team in this league that we can't beat. I honestly feel that way. I think if this team plays well and plays a full football game together, I think we can hang with anybody. I mean, we hung with the Bucs, and that wasn't even a full, complete, good game. We had a turnover there, a couple of different mistakes on defense and on offense. So I think this team can hang with anybody, and it's frustrating seeing them barely hang with the Texans, who are the bottom of the league, when you got all this talent and all this potential. So we just got to start to see them kind of live up to their potential a little bit more because, I mean, they got a ton of it. This team can be really, really good. I truly believe that. It's just it hasn't meshed together yet, and they got to get things turned around quickly if they want to have a chance at playoffs. Being 2-3 instead of 1-4 is huge for their playoff chances. I mean, the Bills don't look like they're going to lose tonight, but if the Bills would have lost tonight, that's a one-game difference in the division, and especially with how the season started for you, I think you'd feel pretty good about that going in, seeing the struggles we've had so far. But I just wanted to show this clip real quick. This was Mack Jones' touchdown to Hunter Henry, 3rd and 6 in the red zone at the 13-yard line. Not a screen pass. We do an actual play, throw it to Hunter Henry, and look what happens. Great ball, touchdown. Using these weapons to our advantage and using them to their skill sets. This is what Hunter Henry did all the time in Los Angeles. Had I think we said it was 8 touchdowns last year off different stuff like this. So it was good to see him finally be used correctly and get his chance in the end zone. Nice route here. Good leverage. Throws it right over the DB's hand and slides, makes the catch. Overall, good play.
I imagine Bill in that little clip that it showed earlier talking to Josh McDaniels is like, hey, why don't you do that shit more? Right? Like, do that more. That works right here, right? He's like, dude, you've had that this whole time and we've been running screens. I hope that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I hope it is too. And Josh McDaniels is like, wait, what do you mean?
He's like, what?
We can't do 3 screens in a row? Why not?
Yeah, something right there. Josh is like, come on, man. Like that's only going to work once. No, it's going to work multiple times. So
you got to open things up a little bit. That was a great drive, great throw, ties the game up here. Was it late in the 4th? I think.
Yeah, it was like 9 minutes left. Yeah,
9 minutes left in the 4th.
Yep, right under 10.
So yeah,
come back.
Mack, nice throw. Hunter Henry, couple guys on our good list. I thought overall the offense as a whole was pretty solid. They had their struggles a little bit at times, but overall not too bad.
Yeah, and that last drive, so we score with 9 minutes left, and then they go 3 plays and punt, and then we go 15 play drive, 84 yards, take off 7 minutes on the clock and kick the field goal, and then they have no time. So I thought that the last drive 2 of the game was very good clock management by Mack Jones, by the running game. Damian Harris looked angry, was running well, and we chew off 7 minutes of the clock, so they get the ball back with under 30 seconds and no timeouts, and that was a very encouraging drive too. So defense did step up when we needed them to, right? We needed to get the ball back to go down and score points to win the game, and they get it back 3 and out, and it gives us plenty of time to go down the field.
And that was what we were concerned about a little bit beginning of the year. Dolphins, we couldn't do it against the Dolphins. The defense couldn't hold up when they needed to. The Bucs, they didn't really. They held them from getting a touchdown, but they still let them get a field goal. So not great, but I mean, it's hard to stop that offense. I can give them a little slack on that one, but a couple times the defense didn't step up when they had a chance, and when this team had a chance to. Oh, the Saints game, that big drive, that was just, embarrassing watching them continuously just punch it down the defense's throat that entire drive, and then go and score a touchdown with Taysom Hill, and that was embarrassing. But this last clip I want to show. This is how the Patriots want to play football. They want to be a team that is a threat to run the football. Damian Harris, he was doing solid on this. He did solid on this drive before he got hurt again. But this when you can run the ball effectively and you have Mack Jones and Damian Harris and all these guys who can do different things, these guys who are good in the short to intermediate routes. Watch this play action by Mack Jones right here. So Mack snaps the ball, takes the handoff. Look at these linebackers bite on this. I mean, they as soon as fakes it, look at those linebackers running up the field right there. And that just Mack immediately recognizes it and says, okay, boom, before you guys have time to get back, I'm going to throw that right in the gap, right in between the gaps of coverage right there to Jacoby Myers for the first down and move the chains. It's just great football. When you can run the ball effectively, it sets up the play action like this. And Mack has been great at getting the ball out of his hands extremely quickly, recognizing, hey, I can get this ball out of my hands into the opening right here, get the ball into my playmaker's hands before the linebackers can get back in coverage because they bit so hard on the play action fake. So that's one thing that I think this team is going to kind of live on this year, and being able to be effective in the run game and hold up in the pass blocking game. It's going to be huge. So I thought that was one thing we had a little bit of success with today.
Yeah, getting that run game going more consistently is going to be huge. It just sets up a physical aspect of the game that teams are, it makes your offense multidimensional. You get linebackers flying up. You saw it earlier too. Another one to Hunter Henry. I think one of his first catches of the game right down the seam. Mack Jones does a good job throwing it over the backer that bites. Hunter Henry kind of catches it and then stumbles down. But it was good. I was excited to see, play action working at least, but you'd like to see the run game get going a little bit more. And stats don't show it. Like we rushed for over 100 yards, over 4 yards a carry on the day. So it looks like a good day rushing in the box score. I just didn't feel that way. I didn't feel consistently it was good enough. There were times where it was good. Consistently, it wasn't good enough. So got to clean that up. But let's get to our injured report. Obviously, Damian Harris on there. Oh, do you have one more clip you want to show?
One more last one. Sorry. So
go ahead.
I just want to show this one. Juwan Williams. We talked about, I thought he had a bad game. I mean, this is one of the big plays that he just got burnt on. He looked lost in coverage. He's right here at the top of the screen. Juwan Williams, just watch him on this route. You can't see him the entire route, but just watch him get kind of shook right here. I mean, he's lost. He's running the wrong way. Davis Mills rolls out. Look at the separation that Juwan's here. Devin McCourty. Maybe you want D-Mac to get there a little bit quicker, but I mean, D-Mac kind of misses the tackle, goes for the ball. Juwan does tackle him inside the 5, but I mean, he looked lost in coverage there. He wasn't anywhere really near where he was supposed to be. You can't let a receiver get 5 yards of separation on you, especially when it's not Brandon Cooks. It's not some big name on their team necessarily. It's just one of the guys that they have. So we can move on to the injured now, but I just wanted to show that last clip of why I didn't think he had the best game.
Yeah. So injury report looking pretty clean, honestly. Damian Harris, the big one on here. Ramondre Stevenson says this after the game. He says he's going to be fine. I mean, he's a tough dude. He can weather any storm, so I'm not really worried about it. He goes out with a chest injury, then comes back. Did he leave the second time with a chest injury, or was it something else?
So he left first, went to the locker room with a chest injury, came back in, left the game with a rib injury, and it looked like he was in a decent amount of pain. So I assume he's obviously going to be on the injury report, and hopefully he's good to go this week. I'm not sure, but that running back room quickly looks like we should have kept Sony Michel. Damian Harris injured, James White injured. Now we're relying on a rookie running back, a second-year undrafted free agent running back, and Brandon Bolden. That's our backfield for a team who wants to be a dominant run team. That doesn't sound good. So hopefully he's all right. He's had his injury history a little bit, and his first couple of years, he's kind of bounced off on and off the injury report. Missed the start of the season and the end of the year last year with injuries. So especially if he's got to hold the blunt of the carries, it's going to be tough for him to stay healthy. I hope he can continue to stay healthy and bounce back from this injury pretty quickly. Hopefully it's just little minor bumps and bruises, and maybe he was just in a little bit of pain, or the wind got knocked out of him, something like that. I don't know. But rib injury officially. We'll see how much he practices this week, what capacity he practices. But yeah, that's tough to see, especially he runs hard. He runs angry. He's a physical runner, runs into guys, runs them over, and just that's how he wants to play. So him having bumps and bruises and little aches, if his ribs are sore, his chest is sore, he's pretty banged up, it's going to be hard for him to run the brand of football that he wants to run. So hopefully he bounces back quickly.
Yeah, we'd like to see him back for the Dallas game. The other notable ones before the game, obviously, most of our offensive line, Isaiah Wynn and Michael Winner, hopefully coming off COVID list this week. We'll have more for that on our Wednesday show. Shaq Mason hopefully can come back too with his abdomen. He's going to be a big one. And then we all got the news, Trent Brown officially going on IR. So another 3 weeks. At least we don't have to guess with him. He's definitely out for 3 weeks, which is frustrating. But no more guessing. And I mean, I guess if it gets to the point where it's it would be week 8 when he can come off, maybe week 9, and he's still not ready to go. Yeah, there's something going on there, but he will be out for 3 weeks officially. Hopefully we can get the other 3 back for the Dallas game. But those are the main ones. Anything else?
I'm gonna hold off my Trent Brown rant. I went on a rant last week about it. My anger with Trent Brown. I'm gonna try to hold off on that a little bit. At this point, I don't know what I expect because I wouldn't be surprised if he stays on IR for 5-6 weeks and doesn't come back till late in the year if he even plays for us. I don't know. Maybe he's just going to continue to sit at home and go to these parties and stuff and post it on a story and dance around his calf looking fine, but he can walk around in 3 practices and then all of a sudden he can't participate. That's all I'm going to say. I'm extremely frustrated with him in the situation. We thought we'd have a dominant right tackle, left tackle, wherever he ended up playing, and he just hasn't shown up and hasn't practiced. He's practiced, but hasn't played 7 snaps for us this year. I don't know. Tough. Injuries happen, but seems like this is an injury that shouldn't be keeping him out 8 weeks plus of a season. And seems like more of what the Raiders had to deal with last year. And that's tough to see. Some news we did get from Bill Belichick after the game was that they were hoping Mike Onwenu would be able to play today. He couldn't, but that obviously trends in a good direction for next week. That means he is vaccinated, and as long as he gets those 2 negative tests in a row, he should be good to go next week for practice, all that stuff. So that's good news. Didn't say anything about Isaiah Wynn. So I don't know if I don't think Isaiah Wynn is vaccinated. I think Ian Rappaport reported that he was a close contact, but that would have meant that he would only need to be out 5 days and then he'd be good to go. So maybe he was a close contact, but then he ended up getting it. So now he's in recovery from it. I'm not really sure, but he should be able to go next week as long as his symptoms or whatever he has going on, as long as he tests negative, he should be good to go next week. He probably won't practice till later in the week if I had to guess, but he should be good to go. Mike Onwenu should be good to go. Trent Brown on IR and Shaq Mason. We haven't really heard anything on him. Didn't practice late in the week. Hopefully that rest time does him good and he can be back for this Cowboys game.
Yeah, so Ian Rappaport, this is on October 7th, so that would have been like Thursday, said there was 1 positive test and a close contact. Whoever the close contact was is an unvaccinated player because fully vaccinated individuals aren't subject to those protocols, talking about obviously sitting out. So if Isaiah Wynn is the unvaccinated player, which we assume he is, he was a close contact. We haven't gotten any information if he did test positive, but there was a positive test. Maybe that was Michael Onwenu, or not Michael Onwenu. Oh yeah, it was Michael Onwenu, right?
Yep.
He was on.
It had to be him because he's vaccinated.
And he's a vaccinated player, and that's why they were hoping he could get back this week, but he couldn't, and it was close. So that seems like best case scenario, we're going to get Michael Onwenu back, or best case scenario, we could get both of them back. It sounds like maybe Isaiah Wynn is ready to go by the end of the week. Who knows? But Michael Onwenu sounds like he should be back too, unless he pulls a Trent Brown.
Mr. Trent. Yep. I don't know what else to say about him. It's tough. I was so excited when we got him back. I was like, perfect. We'll have another dominant offensive line. And he just barely stepped on the football field. And what's so frustrating is that he showed so much flashes. One of the few run plays he was on the field, it was like a 40-yard run by Damian Harris, and him and Shaq Mason just, demolished people. We showed the video on stream and all that stuff. So that's what's frustrating is knowing the potential he has if he actually decides to step on a field for us ever again and ever decides to play in the NFL again, or just keep milking a calf injury that's going to last him the next 10 years and he's going to retire due to a bad calf injury that lasted him 26 years of his life.
It's the worst calf injury. It's deteriorating and falling off the bone.
Yeah. It's just frustrating. But yeah, overall, tough game. Glad to get the win. A lot of good. Not lot of bad, but there's also some positives to take out of it. Obviously, coming back, winning the football game, moving on to 2-3, headed back home against Dallas next week. I think in the 4:00 hour. It's going to be a tough game. I mean, if this secondary decides to play like they did against the Bucs, it's a game we can win. If they decide to play anywhere near how they played today as a defense in general, we're not going to win this football game. So if they play up to their potential, we should be able to beat Dallas. They're a tough team right now. They're playing well. I think they're 4-1 now. Is that right?
Yeah, 4-1. The only loss to the Bucs week 1. They've been, kind of
they've
been kind of steamrolling opponents. Philly, the Giants, a couple other teams in there. Their offense looks very capable.
So let's see. So far, okay, yeah. So they lost to the Bucs 31-29. They beat the Chargers, which the Chargers are playing well. They just beat the Browns today. They beat the Chargers by 3, beat the Eagles, by 20, beat the Panthers by 8, and beat the Cowboys today by beat the Giants today by 24. Jeez, I'm struggling with that. But it's going to be a tough game at home. 0-3 so far at home. That's not great. Hopefully we can get Mack and the boys can get their first win at home in front of this crowd who hasn't been able to see a win at Gillette Stadium since 2019 in January probably. Something like that. Yeah. So going to be an exciting game though. A lot to talk about. We'll go over some more film and stuff obviously on Wednesday's episode and then preview the Cowboys, but Zeke got hurt in this game at one point. I thought he looked like he got it pretty slow, and I didn't know if that was going to affect this week's upcoming game, but then he came back in the game next drive, so he was fine. So it's good to see he wasn't injured too badly or anything. But you got anything else before we sign off?
No, just Dallas is going to be one of the top probably 3 scoring offenses after this week. They had 126 going into week 5. Obviously put up 44 this week, so they have 170 total. It's going to be a good match for our defense. And the thing is, quite frankly, is it seems like New England plays with how their opponent is. If it's a good opponent, they're going to be ready and they're going to, step up to the challenge. What catches us off guard, and I don't know why it is when you play these lower opponents, they think they can get by, like Houston, some of these guys, and they have slip-ups. But I expect New England to come out at home, get their first win. This is a big game, too. If they can beat Dallas, go to 3-3, it would be a big statement win for Mack Jones and the team, quite frankly. So I'm excited to see how they play. Defense got to step it up. A lot of people got to step it up, but we'll preview that all on Wednesday. Yeah,
they're averaging 34 points a game. That's quite a bit. So it's going to be a tough challenge.
The Bucs are averaging that too, and we held them to 17. So
exactly.
We'll see what we can do.
It's all about that's one thing that's a good point by you, which I was saying today. It seems like we play to the competition. We play down to the Texans. We played up to the Bucs. We kind of played down to the Jets, I guess you could say. And I don't know. It's a big game. It's a big point in the season where, I mean, obviously every game is important, but it's a big I feel like this could be a turning point in the season for the team. If they play a tough game, play a good game against the Cowboys, move their record to 3-3, then they play the Jets at home the next week. So hopefully that's 4-3. And then you kind of get into a tough stretch where if you win against the Cowboys and win against the Jets, you have a little 3-game winning streak going there. You're feeling pretty good. Played the Bucs tough, played a good Cowboys team tough. If you can get a little momentum going, it's gonna make the stretch of the Chargers, Panthers, Browns, Falcons, Titans, and then Bills, Colts, Jaguars, Dolphins. But it's a little tough stretch there with some good football teams: Chargers, Panthers, Browns. Those are some tough football teams. So if you go into it and go into that stretch 4-3 instead of 4-3 instead of 3-4, you feel a lot better about that. And if you could steal a couple of those, and maybe if you drop one, you feel a lot better about that than if you're 3-4 going into that and then lose 1, 3-5. Then you're playing from behind. It's just, I think it's a big point in the season where you win this one, get some momentum, beat the Jets, hopefully. Then you can kind of keep things rolling and build towards a playoff run that you're hoping this team can get this year. Because I think they have all the potential in the world to do it. I think it's just about how well they play as a team. And if they limit the mistakes, limit all the things that we've been talking about, the turnovers and different stuff like that, if they play a complete game, they can hang with anybody and they can definitely make the playoffs.
Yep. I'm excited to watch this game. Back at home, Gillette's going to be loud. Let's go get another win. We'll preview that on Wednesday. So, yep, Cole, take us out.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Texans lost to the Pats today, 25-22, obviously. Big game next week, 4:25 p.m. Sunday, Cowboys, Pats at Gillette Stadium. It's going to be great. Fans at Gillette for the fourth game this year. Good environment. Hopefully the team can get a win at home for these fans and for Pats Nation and all that stuff. So until then, we'll see you guys on Wednesday with the preview episode for the Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.